Blood filled my mouth before I even hit the floor. The crack of his fist still echoed in my skull when my shoulder tore out of its socket. I remember the carpet fibers against my face soaked red and the taste of iron on my tongue. My brother-in-law stood over me, chest heaving, rage in his eyes. My sister, she didn't scream. She didn't flinch. She just crossed her arms and said, "Cold as stone, you should have signed the mortgage." That was her answer to my broken body. Not pity, not fear, just calculation. I dragged myself to my parents' door, one arm useless, blood streaking my shirt, begging for help. My father froze. My mother sobbed, and then darkness. When I woke up, the police were already inside. What they found, even they weren't prepared for. My sister was my first protector. When we were kids, she'd chase away bullies, bandage my knees, whisper promises that she'd always be there. I believed her. When she married him, I told myself he'd protect her the way she protected me. Hez smiled like a gentleman, shook my hand firm, said, "Family means everything." It trusted him. I trusted her. That's what makes betrayal a poison. It doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the ones you for. It started small. He'd joke about money at family dinners, about how I had it good with my job, my savings, my discipline. My sister laughed a little too hard. Then the requests came. First a little loan, then bigger, then the mortgage guarantor. Their voices got thievier when I said no. "Your blood," my sister snapped. "If you love me, you'll do this. But love and debt don't mix." I refused. The smiles vanished. The tension thickened. Then the assault, my punishment for standing my ground. Paint aught me clarity. On that hospital bed, with my arms strapped and my jaw wired half shut, I realized two things. They thought I was weak. They didn't know how dangerous I could be when I stayed quiet. I didn't scream for justice. I didn't curse them to anyone who would listen. Instead, I listened. I studied while my wounds healed. I collected information, his business records, her credit history, the lies they fed my parents. Every piece of their fragile empire built on loans, fraud, and desperation. I didn't want revenge fueled by rage. I wanted it built with precision. Step 1. Silence. I stopped arguing, stopped resisting. I let them believe I was broken. People are careless when they think you've surrendered. Step 2. Infiltration. I tracked his shady dealings, kickbacks, falsified, invoices, a trail of debts buried under forged documents. I gathered evidence like jewels, storing them where only I could access. Step 3. The trap. I went to my parents, calm, wounded, but resolute. I showed them every paper, every proof of how my sister and her husband were bleeding them dry. The shock in my father's eyes burned me more than my injuries. But I didn't stop there. I handed the files to the bank, the tax authorities, the police. Not just one strike, a storm from all sides. I made sure every domino lined up. All I had to do was watch them fall. The day it all came crashing down, I was there. I walked into their house, uninvited. My sling was gone by then. My body healed, but my presence still unsettled them. He sat at the table, bills scattered like shrapnel. My sister's phone buzzed nonstop, creditors, lawyers, investigators. He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. "You did this." I didn't deny it. I just stood there, calm, steady. My sister's voice broke. "Why?" "You're my brother." I leaned closer so she could see every scar on my face, every reminder of that night. You broke that bond the moment you left me, bleeding for a signature. Then the knock came. Not gentle, not polite. The police stormed in, papers in hand, charges read aloud. Fraud, assault, embezzlement. The horror on their faces wasn't rage, it was realization. They weren't untouchable. Their empire was ashes. As the handcuffs clicked shut, my brother-in-law spat curses. My sister, she just stared at me, hollow-eyed, like she finally saw who I had become. I didn't smile when they dragged him out. I didn't gloat when she begged the officers for mercy. Vengeance isn't about laughter. It's about balance. That night, I sat, in silence, bandages still faint on my skin, watching the house across the street. Their house go dark forever. People asked me later if I regretted it, if I felt guilty for destroying my own sister's life. But guilt belongs to those who strike first. I only finished what they started. And in the quiet of my mind, one truth pulsed steady as my heartbeat. They thought, blood made me weak, but blood is what made me ruthless.